Hi everyone, welcome to the monthly reading for January 2023. So I'm going to pull a Celtic cross that hopefully will give us a quick overview of what's going to happen in January 2023. If you haven't watched the quarterly reading, then you can do that. The January shaped up very well, so I'm hoping this reading will pick up on that energy and just give a few more details. All right, so let's start with the pre-shuffle. We open with Temperance, amazing energy, right? Angel energy. We're here at the surface of the energy, and I think it's good that it's something this powerful, right? This idea of alchemy, right? The angel is holding two goblets and they're mixing substances that for maybe a mortal being would be impossible to mix, right? Or you'd have to take great care. It's a sign that things are going to be changing for you, that it's going to be challenging in a way, but that the energy here to balance some of those things that seem like they can't be set right, to create maybe a sense of equilibrium that you feel you've been missing. Yeah, this is here to do that. So the challenge though, right, is that right behind it is the devil. This idea of unhealthy attachments, maybe even addictions, right? There's something here that's powerful that's trying to hold you back. It's almost like the angel and the devil are fighting. And I think something important that came out in another reading I did is that when it's in its shadow side, Temperance can look and feel almost exactly like the devil. And so I think that's a part of this balancing, right? Remember, each of these cards, each of these energies represents something inside each of us. And I think rejecting this outright and saying, oh, there's no way, or that I can control this devil, or that maybe it doesn't even exist, I think that's not helpful, right? I think it's not helpful. So I think the challenge here that we open up with is, what does this mean to each of you? And it's going to take some discernment because everyone's in a different situation, right? What does this mean to you? These energies that can maybe sometimes look the same. Temperance in its shadow side looks like the devil, right? What does that mean to you? It's something to do with a relationship. Doesn't have to be romantic, but some idea of how you're connected to someone else feels maybe a bit like this. You're not sure if it's Temperance or the devil. And if you're not sure, it means that there is some devil energy there that's interfering, that's making things hard, that's holding you back maybe, right? The Two of Cups is a very balanced energy, you know, when it's in its light side, you know, when people are relating to each other in a healthy way, right? It's about balance. It's about fairness and equality. It's an honorable partnership, right? The devil isn't, right? It isn't. It's about usually someone maybe trying to control someone trying to keep someone back, someone not allowing someone to be all that they can be. It's it's negative. It's toxic in a way, right? So maybe some of you are struggling with a difficult attachment that you have. I get the impression that this is long term for most people, right? You want this positive image on this card, but something isn't right. Something isn't right. Okay? Yeah. I'm not surprised to see the Ten of Cups here with these cards, right? Ten of Cups is an apex card. It's supposed to represent kind of complete emotional contentment and fulfillment, right? It's a fairy tale ending. The problem with fairy tales is that they have this element of fantasy to them, right? So sometimes when I see this rainbow here on the Ten of Cups, I wonder about that fantasy element, and I sometimes just see a light show that people are projecting for other people's consumption, right? And that can be the unhealthy part of this. It's that you want this and you want people to believe you're balanced and in equilibrium, and that your relationship is so amazing and healthy. You know, you have this fairy tale life, but there's this heavy devil energy here. There's something that's not right, something toxic that's affecting everything, right? So that's the question for some of you. Even if you don't have this commitment yet, this relationship, right? You can't think of one that maybe fits this. The question then for you is about this 10 of Cups. Is the way you're thinking about this realistic? Is it healthy? Or is it kind of contaminated with this, right? Needing people to see you a certain way, right? Needing maybe a certain kind of praise or acknowledgement, right? That's how the devil energy sneaks in, right? Let's see what's here. Yeah, intuition, right? That deeper knowledge. I think this reading is going to be about how do we reach this? How do we get to this part of ourselves that allows us to be more honest about what we want and why we want it, right? What we want and why we want it. How do we keep the devil out, right? Okay. So that pre-shuffle is interesting, and I think it's going to be a good reading, right? So what I like to do is, after I look at the pre-shuffle, before I cut the cards, I like to look at what's at the bottom of the deck again, just to go deeper into the energy, because right now we're just at the surface, right? So my readings tend to be longer than most of the others on YouTube. I don't like to rush them. I don't want to hold any of the information kind of hostage. I want it to be complete. I also like to give the cards a chance to repeat themselves, right? To see if there's a message that really wants to get out. And also just that element of cross-checking things, right? We're all fallible, and maybe there's an interpretation I make on the surface that, with a bit more information, I can see needs to be looked at a different way, right? Additional information, right? That's the goal, to get as much information as possible from the cards, to allow them to do the work that they're designed to do, right? And I like using the Rider-Waite because it's kind of just down the middle. It gives you kind of a fair reading, Some of the cards with other imagery can be skewed, might be the wrong word, but it highlights certain parts of the energy, right? This to me is just very down the middle, right? Okay, so let's see. The Hierophant. To me, this ties back to that High Priestess, right? The idea of higher knowledge of some kind, right? That's what I'm getting off of this card. The idea of enlightenment, of seeking some kind of information or knowledge that allows you to ascend to a higher level, right? Allows you to maybe see the bigger picture. The idea of that 10 of Cups, right? And the way sometimes we're skewed by these romantic comedies and these fairy tales and these romance novels, right? And it can put people in a state of mind where they feel like that they're failing, right? I think this Hierophant energy is here to help us look at things from, like I said, the higher level, the bigger picture. And it's not just about romance. I focused on that because it's what comes up when that 2 of Cups is there. That's what people think, right? A romantic partnership, particularly soulmates. But what's been coming through for me is, in some of my other readings, is that relationships in general, I think, are important now, right? On my Patreon, I opened with a weekly reading. It was my first reading, I think, and it was about that week before Christmas, right? And saying people maybe needed to think about who they wanted to spend the holidays with, right? I linked to it in the description. And it was more about family and friends, right? And I think that energy is carrying over here, right? This idea of who's going to be in my life and in what way, right? How do we connect to each other? And if someone is bringing in that devil kind of energy, that negativity, that toxicity, the things that are draining to me, right? How do I deal with that? And I think this card is here to help people realize that they have the tools to get that wisdom. And yeah, here's justice, another heavy card. This idea of something needing to be balanced, of there being a wrong that needs to be righted, right? The truth needs to be told, right? And a situation needs to be balanced, right? So what's been coming through since I kind of started this journey first on my Patreon, it was kind of weird because I think most people start on YouTube and then do a Patreon, and for some reason, I don't know, I started the Patreon, and I still don't have any patrons, but that's where I started. I don't know why. I did it kind of backwards. But anyway, this idea of there needing to be justice for people has been coming through, right? This idea that something's unfair, right? Something unfair has been done to people, right? And that it needs to be righted, and it's to do with their relationships, right? This is also a card of long-term commitments, right? Long-term relationships, right? The idea of being bound almost contractually to someone. It's also one of the marriage cards of the deck, right? This idea that there's someone you have a close relationship to, that you feel like it's very hard to get out of, and something not being right has been there, yeah. Seven of Wands, this idea of standing up for yourself, right? And defending your territory, right? The things you've worked for and things you have earned. To set some boundaries with people. The only worry I have here is that the Seven of Wands sometimes isn't, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's half-hearted, but it's not the strongest energy, but it's here with justice, right? So I think, after justice does its work, Seven of Wands maybe might be enough. The Hangman, another more major arcana, right? This idea that someone's perspective needs to change, right? Like I said, that bigger picture way of thinking, right? Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's one of the things about the Hangman that I like to emphasize, that if you're not feeling uncomfortable during this process, it won't work, right? It's about pushing you out of your comfort zone to get this enlightenment, right? That the light around this person's head represents, right? Let me see. Wow. Here with the Hangman, similar energy, the idea of having to withdraw and do some internal work and think about your life and the way you want it to be, right? So that's one of the messages for January. It's to continue that energy of assessment that leads up to it, to the new year, when you're thinking about things you want to achieve, how you want to achieve them. This has to come first, right? This is telling me that there are big things in store that you have to prepare for, and you cannot skip this step, right? Hangman and the Hermit. Let me see what's here. Yeah, wish fulfillment, the Nine of Cups, your goals, right? What you want. Exactly what I said, the things you want to achieve, right? Don't skip these steps. Don't skip these steps. It's uncomfortable. And like I said, for some of you, a lot of you, I think it's going to be about assessing the people who are in your lives, right? And maybe realizing that when this happens, there's one person in this card that these people cannot come along with you, right? One person in this card, a card of isolation, right? I think that's the message that's going to come through, that some of you are going to have to, like I said, set these boundaries, right? These people holding these 6 wands, maybe people who you've been close to for a long time, but whatever new steps you're taking, wherever you're going, I get the impression that these people cannot come with you, right? That's why it's difficult. That's why that Hanged Man in particular is there. The idea of you have to go to an uncomfortable place to think this through, right? And I'm emphasizing don't skip these steps, because what happens sometimes is people try to find a compromise, right? And they lose, right? trying to be fair to people who don't give them that consideration, and they lose, right? Something big is coming and it's going to be hard to get, I think. I think it's going to take a lot of changes. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I think it's going to be there for the taking, but certain work has to be done, right? The overall energy here is the Page of Wands. I like this, right? I like this because it's a small energy, right? But pages are they're adventurous and they represent new beginnings, right? And the Page of Wands is a card of action, right? It's about setting forth on a new path. You're not exactly sure where you're going or what might happen, but you approach it with a spirit of adventure and curiosity. So I like this as the overall energy for January. It's a great way to start the year with the Page of Wands. Don't be fooled because so much major arcana came out before. Something I harp on is that the major arcana, that idea of our circumstances or the universe, whatever you want to call it, kind of setting the table for us, that's all it can do. You have to act, and this is a card of action. So I like starting here. Yeah, and the sun is right below it, right? This idea of that success I'm talking about is right here. It's right here. And it's not going to take, some big, grand gestures and actions. Like I said, the pages, it's a small energy, right? But I think the thing to focus on is that spirit of adventure. That first small steps will set you right on the path to some kind of big success, right? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to pull a Celtic cross, as I said. So what's the issue here? Ooh, interesting, Knight of Cups. Remember I said this was about relationships, right? The Knight of Cups carries a genuine emotional offer, right? Sometimes an apology, sometimes an offer of love, an offer of friendship. So we'll see where this goes, right? So what's the challenge here? Wow, it's exactly what I said. That some of you have to leave people behind. That Nine of Cups, right? The Eight of Cups sometimes is called the Lord of Abandoned Success. This idea that you've worked hard on whatever these 8 cups represent to you. You've poured a lot into it, right? Emotionally, especially because cups represent emotions, right? And, something happens that changes your perspective, and you begin to realize that these 8 cups are not what they seem, right? In some decks, they're depicted as just broken and shattered on the ground, right? 8 broken cups. And someone walks away from in disappointment, but they're heading towards that 9 cups I talked about, that goal they want to achieve, right? This is a card of clarity, of mental clarity, of emotional clarity. It takes a lot of maturity and self-awareness to get here, to assess your situation honestly, and then to take action, right? It takes a lot of maturity, self-awareness, and courage to leave a bad emotional situation. And I think that's where a lot of people are, right? I think that's where a lot of people are this year. They realize that their relationships, there's something that's not quite right about them, and that they have to maybe walk away. Sometimes it just means to withdraw emotionally or like limit contact. For some of you, it just means like getting people out of your life completely. It's going to be different depending on the situation. But this idea of leaving something you've put a lot into behind, it's a theme that I've been seeing in my readings. Phew. Wow. Okay. So what's the crown of the reading? Yeah, there's that action card, right? What's on your mind? You're thinking big. You want this to be a big year, right? I think we've all been put through the ringer with this pandemic and the inflation and all this other stuff that's been happening. I think people are desperate for things to turn another page, right? Just for a new chapter to begin. And I think most people who are watching this will be willing to take this step. The magician kind of takes some risks sometimes, right? It's a powerful card of action that can change things quickly, right? But it can be a bit risky, right? Some of the kind of sleight of hand and smoke and mirrors the magician can use sometimes, right? it has a risk of going wrong in a way something like the Page of Wands doesn't, right? There's a bit of risk attached to this that some of you are thinking of. How far do I want to go, right? How far do I want to push things? Maybe you're not sure yet. What's the root of the reading? Yeah, like I said, Five of Cups. This is what's happening in people's lives. People are disappointed, right? And it's emotional. There are a lot of cups out, right? There's something in people's emotional lives that is very disappointing. And something about this holiday season, I think, brought it out. So if you visit my Patreon, these videos are free, right? So there's no charge to watch them, right? You can go back and watch the earlier weekly readings where I talk about the holidays and people's relationships, etc., right? So you can go back and watch those to get a fuller sense of where this storyline kind of started. But yes, this idea that people are very disappointed in something that has happened in their emotional life. It's been coming through very clearly. And the risk here is to focus on these three overturned cups here in the corner and be there with slumped shoulders and a negative attitude, right? And what happens is you focus on the loss, you focus on the spilled milk, right? You never turn around and see that there are two upright cups here, right? There are different dynamics for this. One way this came through, I think in that first weekly reading, that week before Christmas, I said that you represent these two upright cups, you and other people, and there's someone in your life who's very disappointed, who's always focused on this and can't give you anything emotionally, right? Can't give you anything emotionally. And it's just a point now where you have to move on to something that's more fulfilling, right? So take this all as it resonates. Everyone's in a different situation. We're dealing with different people, different cultures, different countries, different expectations maybe, right? So what's in the recent past? Wow. So this to me is saying that energy of that Two of Cups is even stronger than it seems here with the Lovers, right? This idea of a very strong connection that people either feel now or want to feel, or maybe can feel kind of coming in for them. The knowledge that this is something that you deserve, I think, is coming through. You're not settling for these 8 broken cups anymore, right? You want more, and it's okay to want more, right? What's the near future? Where did we start, right? Saying that this 10 of Cups, people need to think very carefully about what this means to them and what has shaped their views on what this should be, right? This is saying a 10 of Cups is coming for you. We have the Lovers here, that very strong major arcana energy influencing your life. We have a Knight of Cups right in the middle, bringing a real emotional offer to you, right? It can lead to a 10 of Cups. But you have to do that Hangman and Hermit work to figure out, what does this mean to you, right? That success, that sun I'm talking about is about this, right? It's about making sure you take the steps internally to make this a success, right? That's what's happening. Okay. Wow. Okay. So what's inside you? What's your ego telling you? 3 of Cups. This has been coming up in some of my other readings as well, right? This idea of who do you reconcile with, right? I think that's the question here. It's who do you leave behind and who do you head towards, right? It's coming up as a very important question, right? Who do you share with? Who's going to be in your friendship group? Who's going to be your romantic partner? Who's going to be in business with you? Who are you going to reconcile with? I get that word reconcile here, the idea that maybe there's some kind of rift or something that needs to be repaired, and something changes and these emotions start to flow. This is also a card of emotional freedom, right? There's not a lot of masks here. This idea, this projection I get off this 10 of Cups, it's not really here. Not to say it can't be, but I'm not getting that this time, right? That free emotional expression, I think, is what you want and what you want from other people, right? Some kind of emotional honesty. Like, it doesn't matter what the most important part of your life is, whether you think it's your family, your romantic commitment, maybe even your job, right? This idea of wanting to be around people who are collegial, you know what I mean? Having a healthy work environment where people are thoughtful, you know? It might be that for some people. Take it as it resonates, right? But this idea, who do I reconcile with? Who is in my life? Who do I spend time with? That's what this card is asking you to answer, right? Okay. So, what's in your environment right now? That energy of a new beginning is here with the Ace of Wands, right? And what's their overall energy? What's their overall energy? A Page of Wands, right? Very good combination, right? For a new beginning, right? So that energy of being able to start over, kind of, it's here, right? It's here. You're gonna have, good ideas. Things around you are gonna inspire you, right? You're gonna spark your creativity. You're gonna have these interesting, compelling ideas that people will respond to. And the Page of Wands is a reminder to just start small. Like, don't burn yourself out, because the danger with the Ace of Wands, right, that fire energy, is that people get too worked up sometimes, right? And it burns out too quickly. I think that explains why this is a page and not like a bigger energy. It's a reminder to just start small, take those small steps and keep moving. And as things kind of stabilize, then maybe ramp things up. Wow, this is good. Okay. So, big card here, hopes and fears. Wow. Do you see what I said about why I like to give the cards a chance to repeat? This is about relationships, right? Hoping for a balanced, equal relationship and fearful that it might not come in, right? So this is just confirmation of this whole reading. It's about relationships, right? Potential final outcome. And I use the word potential because I cannot tell anyone's future. In my opinion, nobody can, because we all have free will. And I think it's important to remember that and not to allow these cards to become, to just take over your mind and determine how you live your life. These are just tools to help give you a different perspective, hopefully, right? To help you think about things in a way that that moves you and allows you to assess your situation from maybe even a higher perspective, but at least a different one, right? Potential final outcome. Wow. 4 of Wands. It's just going back, 4 of Wands, to that idea that this success is here. And I believe this 4 of Wands showed up in that January, I beg your pardon, that first quarter of this year, the first quarter reading, right? I think this might have been the first card out, this idea of a 4 of Wands, of stability coming in, right? This is very similar to this 3 of Wands to me, right? I beg your pardon, 3 of Cups. The Wands kind of threw me off. 3 of Cups is about who do I reconcile with, who do I spend time with, who do I make my community, right? 4 of Wands can mean that as well, right? Who's going to be in my community? Who's going to be in my life? Who am I going to share things with and enjoy things with? This is also one of the marriage cards of the deck, right? So if you're looking for a romantic commitment, this is saying that a good, stable one is teed up for you. And it's the Lovers is here as well. These are both, the Lovers, the 2 of Cups, and the 4 of Wands are all quote unquote soulmate cards, right? If you believe in twin flames, right, this is the 1111 card. The Wands make 1111, right? So this is saying that for some of you, I think there's a powerful energy of someone very important who's going to be very important in your life, that all being cemented somehow. It's going to start to come together in January. And that this energy is telling me why it's going to be kind of difficult, right? In the sense of you have to create the room for this to happen, right? You have to create the room for this to happen. And these 8 broken cups, sometimes they represent people who are limiting, right? They don't have to be bad people, but they just have limited belief systems, like limiting ways of thinking. The kind of people who hold people back, right? And maybe even think they're protecting you or something, right? Some of them might mean well, some of them don't, right? Some of them might mean well, some of them definitely don't. So again, as it resonates, take it, right? But you have to create room for this inside yourself first, right? And being conflicted about these people who are in your life takes up a lot of emotional space, right? Being conflicted about what I do, right? What do I do about these people? How do I handle this? You have to make a decision, right? You have to make a decision. And the energy is clear that it's to create some kind of distance, right? Not saying to cut people out. Some of you might have to, right? And be honest with yourself about that. Some of you might have to, right? Some of you know the type of people I'm talking about, the chaos mongers, right? People who are always causing drama and strife and conflict, right? Something good comes into your life and they find a way to make it seem small. They're gonna do this when this happens if they're around, right? They're gonna try to diminish this, right? Make it not seem important or like it won't work, right? Pessimistic, right? Again, some of these people are not bad people. They've been beaten down by life, right? We've had a very rough past few years, right? With the pandemic and everything else. Some people are just beaten down, right? Don't sit in the negativity with them, right? Don't allow it to let you miss this. This is a huge opportunity. This is stability. This is where the road to the 10 of Pentacles, that having it all energy starts, right? The 4 of Wands, right? This is our home, right? A feeling of home, of safety, of stability, of security is here. Energy is here. But like I said, we all have choices, right? We all have choices. So you have to decide, what you're going to do, right? This reading is so clear that I don't know if I actually have to do any clarifiers for each position. I actually think I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the reading here, right? But if other questions come to me, I might do an extended. And like I said, it's tying back to some of my older readings, and I'll link to those, right? But if I do a specific extended, I'll share that link as well. But this is very clear and it's very positive, and it's lining up exactly with this 4 of Wands, with that quarterly reading, which will be posted here as well. So be sure to check that out. Yeah. This January is very, very important. Like, please, 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 please do not skip the steps that Hangman and that Hermit are urging you to take. Like, do the internal work of preparing for this to come in for you. It's big. It's big. And remember that you're thinking about taking big action. You don't have to, right? Just take steps in the right direction, right? And things will start to come together for you. Like Page of Wands, like, you don't have to take these huge steps the Magician seems to be hinting at, right? There's a new beginning here for you. Like, it can happen quickly, right? But you have to be prepared, right? That's the reading. I'm very happy that this came out well, and I hope you'll find something useful here. All right, thanks so much for watching.